Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'll be talking to you about the power of emotion intelligence, right? Emotional intelligence, otherwise, is called as uh, EQ. And during the course of the session, you will hear me talking about EQ a lot. How are we placed today for emotional intelligence? And what I would be covering in today's conversation is what are emotions and how emotional intelligence can be applied. I'll also be walking you through the emotional intelligence domain and its competencies. Right? There are few things that we can enhance our emotional intelligence at workplace. With this, let me get started with all of you. I'm sure time and again, all of you have heard about IQ and EQ. Emotional intelligence is all about traversing inwards and outwards. It helps you to build a strong relationship, ambitious goals, and helps you to brand yourself. And you could traverse all three, all of this with the help of EQ. I'm Preethi Guruswamy here, engineering leader with 25 years of experience and a certified PCC coach. I speak at various tech and leadership community. I also lead a Women in Tech India community under the Lenin Foundation. Had a privilege to meet Sheryl Sandberg and her team who are supporting us. Today, I'll be sharing my experience about EQ. As you see this quote, the, I'm sure all of you have been through this moment. You walked into the room and you can feel the vibes of the rooms, right? And there's sometimes that you felt, how did the other person do it? Then how I couldn't do it. The truth is, the heart and the mind are connected. And how are they connected is what I'll be walking you through this. I'll give you a small example that I was speaking to a founder and he, he he I just came he told this to me that he hired one of the EAs for himself, and one of the rules and the condition that he put for the EA was to come into the work at 9 o'clock, right? And what happened is the EA consistently came every day at uh, 10 o'clock. He was quite frustrated with all the things that was happening, and because the most important thing for him from 9 to 10 is he gets the call in the office gets busy, and one of the important tasks for the EA is to assign these calls for the others. This was incurring losses for him. And one thing that came on his mind was to fire her. But after some time, I mean, he didn't know how to go about it. And, he asked one of his board member, and his board member actually told him, have you spoken to her? Have you connected with her? And when he spoke to her, he got to know that she had major problems in her personal life. And first thing he did is to support her. He found somebody else who can support from 9 to 10. She was really good because she was doing a lot of work. She was going beyond. But it's just that she couldn't make at 9 o'clock. After a point, I mean, she became one of his best employees. And in fact, she went beyond to help him in a lot of respects. So what happened exactly here, right? There were a lot of emotions that came in, but instead of disrupting those emotions, he connected to himself and also to the other person. EQ is all about the emotions and their connection. It is important to understand how these emotions are built. Emotional intelligence is, unlike IQ, is a skill. IQ is actually got at the age in your high school or at the age of 14, 15. After that, it doesn't develop. But emotional intelligence is a skill that you can develop based on your experience and also your self reflection. It's a primary, emotions are your primary driver for your behaviors. But The nice part of EQ, it's a hidden driver for the excellence. And let's understand a little more about what are these emotions. As you all know, right, whether or not you're consciously aware, it's always true when there's a high emotion occurs, whether it's high happiness, excitement, anger, rage, there's an association with your physical being, your physical feelings. The researchers have shown and have proven emotions triggered have a strong body sensation in the pattern across culture, gender, and age. So, a emotion is a physical sensation that your mind interrupts as a feeling. And this physical reaction is linked to your nervous system and your response states come in. It could be one of your stress response rate will be like fight, flight, and freeze. However, it's important to understand the emotions that are triggered from the heart, right? Actually is interrupted by your brains. And that is where there is a wiring between the there is a wiring between your body, and the part of your brain that actually is associated to your stress responses, which is involuntary. Sometimes you might feel you're a person who are weak and sensitive. Actually, none of these emotions are weak or being sensitive or it's being flawed. These are just the sensories that are triggered and how your brain interrupts. The good news is you would be able, if you are able to identify it, you will be able to overcome and there will be no more wiring on those emotions. The second part of the emotions that needs to be understood is you some most of the time you feel you don't have control. The answer is that as more and more you're aware about these emotions, you can disrupt these emotions and have more control about them. If I have to reframe this whole thing that I just said, right, it's just that you can think of emotion as a physical sensation influenced by your nervous system that your brain interrupts that your brain reads as a feeling. There is no stigma, it's just a simple wiring, and these can be managed by yourself. The lesson is the emotion that happens to you are actually made by you. The brain actually reads them, and you can change these ingredients of emotions to transform. You can teach your brain how to how to read these emotions and perform. It, I'm not saying it's like a brain tricks or mind tricks that you can perform on your emotions and say that I'm sad now, I'm out of it. No, it's not that. What I'm telling you is the capacity that you have, you can turn down this emotion, suffering, and consequences of life by learning how can you construct your experiences differently. The concept of emotional intelligence, as suggested, is 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 intelligence may understand the emotions, but the emotions facilitates the intelligence. But I I just tell you about a little bit about my definition of emotional intelligence that I have learned in my life. It's more about I'm also a yoga certified. I learned yoga for my own, I did the certification for my own understanding that I wanted to do this at my own pace. And one of the things that, while I was learning yoga, to bring in the balance between the body and mind, we had to regularly practice, feel what's happening. And one thing that I learned at that point of time is looking in and looking out. By looking inward and looking outward, you can having a reflection about it and realization about it, you can really create a purpose or a happy environment around you. It is almost like igniting the light within that can glow the connection between your heart and your mind. And that's what I have understood about emotional intelligence. And and as you see, as we walk through about what this emotional intelligence can be, you will see more of these concepts of looking inward and outward, and I'll break them down as Dan was the father of emotional intelligence, broke it down as well. The As I've said, looking inward or outward. The world today is so fast paced, constantly changing for us. There's complexity in every angle, and emotional intelligence is your key skills to master. Let's start on understanding what emotional intelligence can be about. It is your ability to be aware of your emotions, the triggers, and manage the responses in a way that is positive for you, and also you use influence it outside you. And that's why I keep saying that this is looking inwards and outwards. The way you understand by looking inwards brings a positive change within you, and the way you respond with it brings a positive change around you. And that's where you can ignite that light within you. There is also social element associated with emotional intelligence. And there is as and you will also build a very strong relationship with emotion. If you want to improve and understanding the emotional responses, one of the important part of the emotional intelligence is also reducing your day-to-day stress. And how can you reflect through on everyday basis, right? And that's that's the exact part of your emotions and emotional intelligence, right? Managing the emotions, managing the triggers, and identifying what triggers you, and managing your responses, and how you are perceived and how you want to perceive, right? That's about emotion and emotion. This is a very strong connection between emotional and EQ. Uh, let's now get a little deep dive on the fact of EQ and the domains and competencies, right? Daniel Goleman, who actually defined the EQ, included 5 realms. He said, know your emotions, manage your emotions, motivate yourself, recognize and understand people's emotions, and manage your relationships. And these 5 realms are actually broken down into 4 quadrants, as you see on the screen. One is self awareness, social awareness, self management, and relationship management. Self awareness and self management are also called as personal competency. Social awareness and relationship management are also categorized as social competency. Now, the idea of emotion intelligence today is like well known, and a lot of leadership, in terms of leadership, they talk about very much telling that this person has a high IQ and this person um, is for leadership it is required. One of the things, is very important, and personally heard this, individual contributors don't have EQ. For me, everybody should have EQ. It doesn't have to be for you are in a leadership position or you're not in a leadership position, right? EQ is part of how you exhibit your behavior, right? So be it your personal and professional, high EQ brings in a high quality of life and high quality of leadership as well, right? If you look at the 4 quadrants, you might notice the first half of emotional intelligence, that is self-awareness and self-management, is inward facing. It's all about you and looking inwards. It's about understanding your emotion, reactions, and responses. I I always recommend first building your self-awareness. The second half is outward facing. It's about your social awareness and relationship management. Understanding more about others, your environment, and managing relationships. in this process, in you will learn from this process that developing all these skills helps you to connect with people in a meaningful way. That is the ultimate response that we want. The great news, as I said, is EQ is a skill, not an innate talent. This means you can learn how to take control of your way you express your emotions, how to interact with others. Okay, why? Let's like take a look at all of these behaviors. Let's take a little deep dive on self-awareness. Now, self-awareness is more about how the more you are self-aware, right? It is all about if you understand your own feelings, you can really get a great handle on how you are going to interact and perform with others, right? It's understanding and reading your own emotions and recognizing their part. It also involves knowing your strengths. It also knows about your limitation of yourself. It's about having the ability to manage these emotions. Similarly, self-management is all about how can you practice this on day-to-day basis, right? So that's where most of your self most of your self-awareness and will self-management will come in. One of the best exercises that you can do for self-awareness and self-management is all about reflection. There are various reflections that you can do, right? But there are certain set of daily practices that you could do. I'm a big fan of having self-reflection. I do have a daily self-reflection, weekly self-reflection that I do regular self-reflections that I recently I know I was going through change management, and I moved into a new team, and this team was like it's completely new team. A lot of things was happening, a lot of chaos. One of the things that I was asked to bring in this team is streamline the process, and there was a lot of chaos was everywhere. Even the stakeholders were like very frustrated, team was very frustrated, and I'm just taking up this new team. uh, Got into this new team for some time now, and I've been managing now for a couple of months. But now the stress started getting on to me as well, right? And I was doing everything that I could do the best, and I had a mentor within my organization whom I was talking to as well, on how do I manage this. And it was very and as I said, I'm a believer of doing self-reflection. I do daily self-reflection and all of it. And some of these meetings were very high stressful meetings that I had to handle. And um, and that's where I say self-awareness becomes very important. When I was talking to my mentor about it, and she said, Preethi, you do a lot of self-reflection, and you're a very reflective person. I can see that. Have you ever thought of, taking a moment before getting into the meeting, setting your intention, and after that, reflecting to that meeting? And this is something that struck me. I'm somebody who always reflect through a lot of it. Why did I think about this as a simple practice of setting the intention before I go into the meeting and doing a self-reflection? And what I started doing is, of course, you can't do with your busy schedule all the meetings that you want to self-reflect. That's not possible. But there are few set of meetings that which are very, very critical game changers that you want to self-reflect, and and I started setting the intention. One of the way I set the intention for before going to the meeting is like, the vibes of the meeting, right? What would you do? Sometimes it's setting the intention about, you know, I would deliver, yet I will listen, right? Because it's very important you listen to the other person as well. And but yet you need to deliver everything that you have to deliver, right? So setting that intention. And sometimes, like when you get into your monthly check-in with your one-to-one check-in, there you set the intention only about listening, right? How much did you listen is what you can self-reflect, and that's where your listening skill will get improved, right? You So those are, uh, a self those are your self reflection things that you could regularly do, right? Practice of being present, I think that becomes very important. Emotional intelligence is about reading somebody's tone, vibes, uh, the body languages, and the facial reaction. It's like combination of it. Recently, in one of the linen communities that we were talking about, we had this, and we were discussing quite vulnerably about, how do we manage if we have done a mistake. A lot of people said a lot of things, and I think what comes into for us and what's important to practice is about how we can balance our tone, body language, and our expression, and deliver in being present in the moment. And you need to get into the room. And one of the other set intentions that I set, with, especially for a high stake meeting, is to go into the room. And first of all, I reflect about I should not be judging about myself, and I will not be judging others, right? Being non-judgmental. And every time I start, and I start writing my notes in one place. I use my pen and pencil and I start writing. And the moment I start judging, I just said no judgment and I'll move on. So I kind of put in that reminders regularly within the meeting, because as I'm taking the notes, so that it says me, okay, don't judge, right? It could be about myself. Like I would have said something, oh, I shouldn't have said. At that moment, instead of how do I pass it, I immediately write, don't judge, right? The moment I see that, okay, I'm not going to dwell on why I did not deliver the statement well, I can think about it later, but let me be present in this moment to manage this, right? It is focus on what you want and what you don't want becomes very critical, right? And that is where about, self-awareness and self-management will come picture. Recognizing what others are saying, is becomes like, all these practices helps you to notice the degree which your emotion, thoughts, positivity and negativity flows in for you on day-to-day basis. And it will also help you to build trust, right? It's very important you build trust as you pass through these phases of life, right? Sorry about it. Now let's take a look at, couple of other things. Like one one of the practice of emotional intelligence, I think, uh, which is a less said about, is also, it's a people's currency, right? That is something that you need to really understand about emotional intelligence, right? One other practice of, self awareness. I mean, till now I spoke about self awareness, was how mindfully you could practice all of these, right? Understand your emotions when it is triggered. I mean, how many times you would have felt when you get into the room telling that, why did he say this to me? Because he said this to me, I'm going to say that. Maybe you might need to pause for a second, disrupt yourself and your belief that, he said this because he was intentionally rude to me, right? Stop there, pause there, go back and ask the person, what's the reason that this person said so and so, right? You would get a lot of reflection on, what does that mean. Another way of managing your emotional managing yourself is something that, called as ABCDE. It's very simple to remember, right? ABCDE. A means activating, or, where your emotions get triggered, right? When you do self reflection in the end of the day, or weekly self reflection, I highly recommend you to do. If you can't do daily, but I highly recommend you to journal on a weekly basis. And one of the things that you could put into your journal is A, B, C, D, E. And as I will walk you through how and you can use this A, B, C, D, E, is activating or identifying your triggers, right? Oh, this is what triggered me, and identifying what triggered. For example, you went into the room and I was like telling this person was being rude with me. Instead of saying, okay, this person is always rude with you or with me, or does that very intentionally to me, why don't you disrupt that belief of yours, right? What is triggering you is your belief system that this person is rude with you. So how do you disrupt it? Go talk to that person and understand why that is happening. It did happen with me about this one person, right, who was very called himself very technical, and when I had posed some question on his architecture or something, it kind of didn't he didn't like it. And when I went and spoke to him about it, what caused that, environment that got very disturbing. And he said, like, put in a lot of effort into it, and I've thought through, each and everything, and it and and of course, every time after doing it, and when I actually connected with him further, it kind of went through that he had put in a lot of efforts while he was going through a very tough time at home, right? And now my question probably was, disrupting the whole the change thing, which was the basis of the beginning of it. And probably he had to just get down and explain the context, but he didn't have that patience and time. But then I told him where my question was coming in. And after that, our relationship was quite cordial when we went into it, because, there was a connection that was made, and, the trust that was built. I kind of told him that I trust his ability, and, I trust everything. I was not questioning on his ability per se, it was more of a question for me to understand the system. So, having that conversation and the connection when such things happen will help. If you continue with the fact that, okay, this person is rude, you're not disrupting your belief system. And that's where you have to disrupt the belief system. And the moment you do that, the consequences of that is going to be different, right? Like, for example, in this case, you develop a good relationship with that person, right? And the disrupting of your thought, that is the D part of it. Remember, I told you this, when you're in the meeting, when you're present, some judgments come in, some thoughts come in. How do you stop that disrupt and, pause that? That becomes, important aspects of how you move forward. E is effects of challenging. All E is basically the final effect on building these relationships that you would get and you would go through it, right? Another practice is mindfulness practice. A lot of people think meditation is all about reaching the Zen state. No, just take 2 minutes of your time, sit down quietly in a room or a place where you're not being disturbed, and just observe what's happening in your mind. Observe what your thoughts are, and just let your thoughts move out of you, or label the thoughts and move away. It's something like which you do regularly when you start browsing social media. You just swipe it away, right? Similarly, when you sit for the 2 minutes of meditation, swipe away your thoughts as they come, and swipe it, right? It's just use same feeling that you want to do, right? That doing meditation, you will be focusing a lot on your prefrontal cortex, which is where a lot of your rational thinking that comes into it, right? It in fact, the shift from the flight to fight response gets relaxed when you do these meditation. Start. I don't recommend you to do like half an hour meditation. I recommend you to do 2 minutes meditation. Do 2 minutes meditation uh, 5 times in a day, right? Find out 2 minutes of your, like, 1 hour is very easy to bring it up, right? You should be able to do that. That's one. One of the other way I personally find practice is unplug and recharge. I really unplug and recharge. When I unplug, I completely unplug, completely from digital, everywhere, and recharge myself. In a month, I choose a Sunday that I do that, right? Everything, right? No digital. I just give a lot of my time for myself, where I can unplug and recharge. And sometimes, you know, you want to be away from your family also. I do a very simple step. I just go for a parlor or somewhere and relax, or go to a place, library, and where I can read. It kind of helps me to unplug. So figure out what works for you to unplug and you recharge. That's very important. Now, let's go in and understand about our social awareness. Social awareness, as just to recap, is about the competency to understand others' emotion, their unique perspective, learning and taking interest in things they are concerned about. It involves having sense of organizational awarenesses. One of the things that that I always say, especially there is a big connection between social awareness and relationship, right? You're not looking for a right answer from a person. And none of your thinking and belief, feelings are not right and wrong. As I said, they're just triggers that happens, and the way your brain takes thinks about it. Especially like I just gave an example about this this person being rude with me on a particular question because he thought that I was not trusting him, right? And I figured out in my one-to-one conversation with him. And I see this always, it's important for you to develop empathy. The most important factor of social awareness and relationship. To have a stronger relationship, you need to have an empathy. One of the things that when you're in a heated conversation that you have to do, and imagine this, and it's very important you have some of the anchoring element for you to help you to move forward. One of the anchoring element that I have, and I especially advise you to use, is the cup. When you are in a conflict situation, it's important you have the other person in your cup. And what do I mean by cup? Cup is nothing but is acronym for connect, understand, and praise. It's very important. Connect with the person, understand the person from their point of view. Don't get into the trap of focusing on your point. Focusing on your point is the biggest trap. Rather, understand the person, listen to that person. Set the intention when you get into that space. As I was saying, when there is a chaotic meeting, I set the intention of listening without judgment. So set the intention. And that is where you will be able to understand the person from their point of view. And always praise. Praise is a very important aspect, right? You must praise, and if somebody is vulnerable, praise them, telling about thank you for trusting you, thank you for being vulnerable, for letting so that you understand things much deeper, right? And that's why uh, when you are with a person, you need to be with the cup and you need to take the person in your cup. Connect. Recently, I was reading this book on parenting actually. It is the whole brain child book, and I think and all of us for people who have children, right? And one of the difficult thing is when especially the toddlers, and I have a toddler with me, and I find it very hard sometimes, right? They don't listen to you, and and the author advises to you is like first you need to connect with your child. If you're speaking to the child uh, from the above, because you need to come into their level and speak. And to do that, it's all you need to do is get down, hold them. That's where you connect. The moment you connect and then you start advising, the advice will work in place. But if you start advising in generally without connection, it will not happen, right? Just connecting to the child and asking the child what happened, right? Will bring in an emotional and a lot of understanding between each other. So the connect aspect is important. And when you are there in the meeting, you need to look into that person's eyes, be it virtual, be it face to face, right? Uh, your body language should mirror their body language. And it is very important that you connect, right? That connection can help you to build that understanding. that you're looking for. So, in terms of social awareness, the cup, empathy with the cup that you can carry with yourself is your anchor. And always set an intention to listen, right? Relationship management is all about being adapting authentically, right? It involves whether it is a teamwork, collaboration, or anything, learning how to resolve disagreement, right? It is all about how you respect that particular relationship and how would you like to move forward. It is about connecting, right? You will need to connect with that person, understand what that person is doing. Now, in terms of building, and it is one of the other aspect of a relationship is building trust, right? You will have to build a trust. You need to you and sometimes building a trust is for you as a leader to be vulnerable. Sharing your failures is one other way of building trust, right? And if you are a leader, delegating it to others and trusting them is also become one of the aspects of uh, trusting in the relationship. So practicing of trust becomes a very important factor in terms of relationship. You and and it's important, right? I mean, it's understanding them, knowing them, right? Giving that space without judgment. All these will help you to manage your conflict positively. See, conflict management, I know it's a bigger topic altogether, which I generally do a larger conversation on conflict management. But a conflict is not a problem. Conflict is where there's the difference of opinion, right? To manage it positively, to have a win-win part of it, relationship management becomes very, very important. I'll tell you one small exercise that I did long, long ago, and I had a challenge. One of the things that I have is I can't remember names sometimes, right? So, and we always say hi, and this was very few years ago. I think it was actually not few years ago. If I correct myself, it's 10 years ago, right? I moved into there was a reorg. Then I know I moved into a new space within the same organization, new building. So a lot of people were new people for me, right? I didn't know how would I develop the relationship here within the team. I used to come do my work and go. Then it's been like a year now in that team, and then I spoke to one of my leaders, and I was this leader was my sounding board, and I was saying, I still feel lonely in this team. It's been some time that I've been here, but I'm not able to make that connection. And he said, Preeti, do you know all you people? Do you wish them when you leave and when you enter the workplace? I was like, I just thought for a moment, and I said, no, I don't. I come in, do my work, and I go. You to do an exercise for a month, right? All you need to do is when you enter your cubicle, you say hi with their names, right? There could be two people when you enter, or there could be one person. Just don't say hi, just say hi. When you leave, right? Similarly, say bye with the names. And I will see you after 1 month. Tell me what did you learn? There was an immense impact by with a small exercise that we do. And eventually, what I started doing is when I say hi to somebody, I say hi with the person's name, right? Because the fact that connect can happen, the person will look at you. How many times we just say bye and hi and just wave our hands? It's okay if you're busy in a conversation, you're walking by, you see somebody, but it feels nice when you greet a person with the name. It changes the equation of your relationship. So there's a lot that there are very small things that you could do on enhancing EQ at your workplace, and it's very simple aspects that you can change. What I'm not telling you to change that, it is very important that I'm not telling you to change who you are. You would remain as it is. As I said, it is not the mind. You won't be able to, you should be able to show up authentically and genuine way of life. And if you look at all the four aspects, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management, it's about looking inward and looking outward. Right? As I said, it is the light you need to ignite that light within to bring in the balance outside and inside. Now, let's look at, like, what is that action plan that we have with ourselves. Frankly speaking, right, there's only one, uh, just do it. And for you to do it, you need one of the things for you to gain and EQ is to practice. And there's just one action plan. In each of these pillars, you have to practice. Practice by journaling, self-reflecting. It can be a self-reflection through voice. I know a lot of people who are not comfortable writing. You can just use self-reflection through voice, right? Increasing empathy, right? Connecting with people, looking from a different perspective, having that cup with you, right? Setting that intention. All of this becomes an important part of you practicing every day. So, one action that you take is practicing some of these mindfulness meditation is where you will bring the change. It cannot be that you try, you cannot do it. Just takes 5 minutes of your day, 2 minutes of your day. How you set this for each of these intention. As I was like talking to you about, uh, now more than ever, we are encouraged to be our real self at work. I'm sure how many times you've heard this, right? Bring your authentic self at. And we need to. It is not possible. And I sometimes wonder when people say, right, I'm a different person at work and I'm a different person at home. I don't carry things from work and I don't carry things from home, right? I personally believe that the person is lying with himself, or that prepare for others outside. You cannot split your life. Your life is only one life. You cannot split your personality. It is very difficult to, right? It is important you bring your real self, both at work and both at home. And the best way we can do is to connect with each other, recognize our own emotion and how we show up. This is very important. And there's nothing that is wrong, inherently wrong with our emotions. All are at a space. It's just that we need to understand how we can navigate, especially at work or home, anywhere. Hmm? Increasing emotional intelligence is setting a deepened levels of human understanding and functionality. This is very important, right? It improves your empathy, social skills, self-awareness, confidence, self-regulation, right? It helps you to be. And that's why I keep saying that it is very important for you to ignite that light within you. And that light within you helps you to look inwards and look outwards. Just imagine for a moment the brain that reads your emotion and that heart and with connected with nervous system. When you ignite that light, all the three of them will go. And that radiance, the positive radiance is what you bring outward. That is the impact of relation in EQ. Now, with that, I end the session on the EQ. Thank you very much for listening to me. I write a lot about EQ, leadership development, on LinkedIn, and the hashtag that I have is Preethi Anubhavachakra. You could follow me through the hashtag, or you can connect me over the LinkedIn at Preethi Guruswamy. I also write on Medium blog post, and the Preethi Guruswamy itself is the ID that you could use. Thank you very much.